Story 1. I'm not over my ex. I tried dating after him and I just hated it. So I'd rather be single, heal, and enjoy my own company for the first time in years. Story 2. Ex-wife bailed on me and the kids. I was single for 5 years, started dating someone, and she accidentally slipped and fell on her ex's car seat in his 2007 Toyota Camry. I probably need another 5 years to recover. Story 3. Because I can't find anyone I like a lot who also really likes me. It's hard to find chemistry and compatibility. Plus, I'm 49, so the pool of single people is much smaller than in your 20s. Story 4. Just got out of an emotionally draining relationship of 2.5 years. I am only left with an empty shell and trust issues as my ex drained all my mental energy and positivity. Now I am trying to rebuild myself with self-care and self-love while embracing that I am enough to live life as a single person. Story 5. I dated a lot in my 20s and early 30s but never found anything lasting, just flings. I was always the placeholder girlfriend that they would date until someone better came along. This was in the early days of dating apps, so you always felt like someone better could be a click away. I also didn't want kids, so that further limited my options. I eventually aged out of the prime dating pool and decided to just be alone. Story 6. Words cannot express how much I hate the phrase, still single. As if being single were merely a transitional state to real life, defined by being in a relationship or marriage. I have never conceived of my life that way, at least not since I was old enough to understand that relationships or marriage are not inevitable goals I am obligated to pursue. I dislike this type of question due to the assumptions it carries. I was born single. Being single is my norm, the default state of my existence. Relationships are things I have actively deviated from my default state to engage in. So it's endlessly bizarre to me that I have to justify being single. I think people who are in a relationship are the ones who should be explaining why. What I wish people would ask is, why are you in a relationship? Story 7. I have very little interest in settling. I would rather be single than be together long-term with someone that I do not think is the right match. I have seen that situation with my parents, and it is not pretty. Story 8. I haven't felt that way about someone in many years. I had a conversation with a group of older people in their 40s and 50s, and they said men really only fall in love once. After they get their heart broken, they never fall again. These were men and women saying this. At that time, I just laughed it off, but it's starting to feel true. I'm not scared of love, and I miss being in love. I just haven't felt that way about anyone in a decade. Story 9. I date a lot but always end things after a month or two. Essentially, I compare how I feel about all new partners after a month to how I felt about my ex after a month. When I realize I don't feel as good with them as I did with her, I end things with them. This sounds reasonable in my head, but I worry I was just wildly in love with my ex from the start and nobody will ever live up to that. Story 10. I am 29 and have pretty much never met anyone I connect with. Honestly, being single my entire life, I'm at the point where I don't think I even want a relationship. I'm too accustomed to being alone and just doing my own thing. Story 11. Meth and steroid addiction. I eat a ton of steroids, inject myself with methamphetamine, and smash my house up. It's great. I love destroying things in the meth and steroid apocalypse. Story 12. I don't have a car. I don't drink. I hate dating applications, and I live in completely remote parts of the countryside. So, as you can imagine, finding a woman is nearly impossible. But honestly, the beauty of nature makes up for it in so many ways. Sure, I don't engage intimately that much, but at least the views are breathtaking. Story 13. Finally realized that not a single straight man in my life, thus far, has added positively to my life in any way. Just took away everything and destroyed even more. I am doomed as I am only attracted to straight men. Story 14. Don't have conventional beauty standards, hate small talk, just go to work and come back home, no social life and also brokenhearted in terms of career. Story 15. I do not feel like filling someone in on my life. Too much trauma and anxiety. I also have an autoimmune disease and do not feel well most of the time. I would end up feeling like a burden. Story 16. I am very allergic to cats. You would think it would not be that big of a deal, but the number of single women in my age range that have cats is very high, at least where I live. Shrinking the dating pool that much, and then shrinking it even more with my standard deal breakers, makes it difficult for me to find compatibility. So I just focused on work, taking care of my aging parents, and living a peaceful, simple life. You cannot change the things you cannot change. Story 17. I was in a 6-year relationship and engaged to someone I thought I was going to spend my life with. I found out he was cheating, trying to cheat with nearly 30 chats on dating apps over the course of 2 days, and was bringing a girl over to our house. It broke me mentally since I had put so much of myself into him and the relationship. I was convinced I had found a good one. I do not trust my judgment anymore and do not trust anybody either. Only almost 2 years later do I want a relationship. But it is scary. Story 18. Last 2 exes were toxic. Dating in your 30s is challenging. I've been happier single than with either of the last 2 exes. So, I just kind of took myself off the market and have given up on dating for the most part. Story 19. I enjoy the peace that comes with being single. There's no need to make compromises on things like going to the cinema or going out to eat. Plus, I pretty much never leave my house and dating applications are mostly bad, so it's hard to even meet someone compatible. Story 20. If a person my age, mid-40s, is single, it's because there is something wrong with them. Yes, that goes for me too. I have to have everything my own way, and I'm not interested in taking care of someone who won't take care of me in return. Story 21. Partner cheated, and now I have trust issues. I've tried again briefly but yielded the same results, so I'm working on self-improvement to become less prone to being cheated on. I'm trying very hard not to become a bitter, jaded misogynist, but maybe I already was, so I'm also working on changing my perspective. Story 22. Got heartbroken once. No excuse, but it made me treat relationships like a joke. I couldn't invest any more time in people. Nowadays, even when someone good comes into my life, I wouldn't know what to do with them. Story 23. My family, along with my ex, messed up my entire worldview, and I was alone to a point where I almost killed myself. I decided to get out and live. It's been 5 years, and I'm still struggling. Story 24. Went through a breakup almost a year ago. It was the best relationship I ever had to the point I actually knew and felt what love was like. When we broke up, it absolutely shattered my soul. Now I just don't care to be with anyone else unless I feel that same energy. When you feel and experience the most authentic, selfless form of love, it's hard to settle for just anyone else or lower your boundaries when you realize what love is supposed to feel like. Not to mention I just like my peace and my sense of self so much, and I love myself a lot more now than I did a year ago, to the point connecting with others tends to be more difficult for me, as most people I've come across where I live just aren't that secure within themselves or mature, or tend to confuse lust with love. It has to be someone special for me to allow myself to be in a relationship again. Story 25. I do not want to be in a relationship right now. I am not in a good place at the moment and I would just drag any good person down with me. That would be both unfair and, frankly, a little cruel. Story 26. I use my crush on a coworker as an excuse to not meet new people and try somewhere else. I'm not delusional. She's not interested in me. Social cues aren't my strong point and my mental disabilities don't help at all. Waiting on work health insurance to kick in to get a therapist again. Try to talk and figure my brain out. I've had one before, so I know it will help me in the long run. So, cheers my dears. Keep your chins up and keep going. Positive affirmations. Story 27. Terrified after being abused and cheated on, I ruined every relationship I entered into after that. I can't trust people or feel comfortable enough to be myself or even relax around them. I hate sharing my bed now. I hate being hugged. I feel like I get the ick over anything now. And I hate myself too. So I've given up. There's just no good reason to put myself or anybody else through that. I think I'm just destined to be alone. Story 28. I am aromantic and asexual, and therefore not really interested in dating and not compatible with 90% of the dating market. Not that I would probably easily get a date if I were interested, but that is more an advantage in this case since I am not often faced with people wanting to date me. Watching from the outside on this whole dating thing makes it seem quite exhausting and frustrating for people, though I assume the end result is worth it as people would not do it otherwise. Story 29. I have issues. Issues that need to be solved. Plus, the demographic for men in my area is low, very, very low, and anyone who hollers at me is unattractive to me. I don't know, I'm single mostly due to not being attractive, I guess. Story 30. I have no car to drive. I am a broke theater actor, and I live with my parents who live miles away from the city. I am too lazy to make an effort unless it is for friends. I kind of wish I was in university instead of working. I made many friends at places like those. Somehow work has less. Story 31. It's difficult to find a guy who is not into sports, does not own or like dogs, is an atheist, does not want to travel, is not into outdoor activities, or can communicate well. It is usually a few, but not all of that criteria. After my last relationship, I now intimately know what I want from my next partner. I'm happy single, so whoever he is will be an enhancement to my life instead of being my world. Story 32. I am just happy. It is not like I am opposed to a relationship. Maybe it will happen, maybe it will not. I am just enjoying where I am for the first time in a long time. It is nice. Story 33. I made girls around me really uncomfortable. Then I stopped trying. I just sat in my dorm room playing games and watching things to the point that I've grown quite enormous. Looking back, I was rather attractive back then and had a good shot. Regrets. Story 34. Simply because I am gay, yet I do not want to sleep around and have one-night flings as all the people I have made contact with seem to want to do. All I am interested in is having and developing a meaningful relationship. However, this just does not seem to want to happen. Alongside this is the fact that some members of my family are homophobic, so I am a bit stuck between a rock and a hard place. Story 35. I am in the process of reschooling and establishing a new career. It's already pretty rough, and I am having a difficult time right now as it is. My full attention, time, and energy are better spent on doing that first. Introducing another person to the mix right now would likely be catastrophic for both myself and them, and for what I am trying to do. Story 36. For me, it feels more like an obligation than something I actually want to do. There's this weird pressure from friends and mostly social media that I should be dating, even if I'm not really in the mood for it. It's like everywhere I look, couples are popping up, and I start wondering if I'm missing out or falling behind. But when I approach dating like it's just another task, it feels draining and forced. I've realized that the best moments happen when I let go of that pressure and just enjoy getting to know people naturally. Story 37. Left my ex. I'm a mom now and I'm 20, so it limits my choices, but I'm happy being single at the moment. I have some personal things I should work on before any future relationships. Story 38. I'm still hung up on that one person I liked in college but never told her. I see her every now and again, and I want to tell her the truth, but I can't. That, plus the fact I look like a troglodyte from Disenchantment. Story 39. Between trust issues with new people and not being able to fully move on past my prior person yet, it's kind of a rock and a hard place to be stuck in between. Story 40. I struggle taking the next step. I've only dated through apps, and it's like I view them as a game. Once I've gone out with a girl once or twice, the chemistry fades, and I stop trying. I am not good at this. Story 41. I do okay for myself. I don't do well enough that I'm appealing to women with whom I would be interested in settling down. It's just been my experience. I'm in my mid-30s now, so I've just kind of checked out and decided to focus on myself. Story 42. I'm 51 years old and have had 2 long-term relationships. 15 years with my late husband and 10 years with my last boyfriend. That's half of my life. My kids are adults now, and I am focusing on myself and self-care and am ecstatic to do so. I look and feel better than ever. The relationships were great adventures in my life, but the journey to myself is pretty sweet, and I'm just getting started. Story 43. It took me until I was 36 to finish my Doctor of Philosophy and land a job. Now I have money, and I work remotely. The last thing I'm trying to do is settle down. I've got years of living to catch up on. Story 44. Too afraid of being rejected again. If I don't get rejected on the spot, then shortly after, I'm getting dumped. I don't want to be reminded that I'm ending up alone. Story 45. I spend all of my time raising children or working. There isn't much time to devote to myself, let alone another person. Heading towards my 7th year and it's looking grim. Story 46. Lack of gay guys within my community. And also because I don't date casually, I date to marry, and that makes it harder in a way since nowadays love and romance have so many rules to it and it gets tiring. I've decided to just save the romance for after college. Story 47. Working on my childhood trauma in therapy. I don't want to burden anyone else while I work through my own issues. No one deserves that. I have decades of abuse to sort through. I am no mathematician, but I do know the one constant variable in every relationship has been me. So I will change for myself. I also know that I might actually stay single for life. By that, I mean I am not even dating anyone since my last engagement fell apart in 2021. I haven't even held hands with anyone. No dates. Nothing. It gets lonely sometimes, but I get by with amazing friendships. I am not unfriendly either when out in social settings. I am, however, very friendly and always open to chat. When a woman in a social setting asks me out on a date or for my number, I thank them and politely decline. No trauma for you today, nice woman talking to me. Still working on it every week in therapy. Thanks for chatting, though.